and we will be able to archive this on the National AgrAbility Project website. Let's see, this session is captioned, so if you are not seeing closed captioning and you need that, please feel free to click on the closed caption button at the bottom of your screen. All right, we are going to start our session with Dr. Bill Field, and he is going to do a welcome. So Dr. Field, I'm going to pass that over to you. Dr. Field, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is Bill Field, and I'm calling, looking out my window across the flat plains of Indiana. And everything is harvested out here. We would have much rather that we all were able to gather at the foot of Lake Otsego. They're at the Otsego Hotel in Cooperstown. I think that's where we were originally planning to have this event. And I think all of you would have enjoyed it a whole lot more than probably you're enjoying it at this particular time. But we want to especially thank you for taking the time and being with us at one of our regional events. This is a long standing practice that we've had to conduct regular regional events across the country to build a critical mass of those who are interested and committed to the needs of farm families that have been impacted by disability, regardless of its cause. And so it's really special to have each one of you here today. First, I want to thank JoBeth and Tess for all that they've done to organize this event and put the partnerships together with each of the players that are listed as collaborators. It takes a lot of time and energy to do that. We originally were told we'd have about 60 people here today participating, some coming and going. We've even had some international individuals register for the events today. Secondly, I want to encourage each of you to share what you learned today through this exercise and through this opportunity, just to share what you learn with others in your profession. It is so difficult to reach people today with all of the limitations placed on us by the current pandemic. And so we need to be really willing to encourage each other to check in on sources of information. So if you like what you hear, it's all going to be recorded, and we encourage you to let other people know through your circles of friends and professionals so that they can tap into this and pick up ideas that might be beneficial to them. And then finally, I do want to encourage each one of you to visit the AgrAbility website, and you're going to be, I think, impressed by the amount of material that's there. It's really a collection of over 30 years of information that's been acquired through working with literally tens of thousands of farm families that have been impacted by physical and mental health related issues. And we've been in this game for a long time. I've learned a lot of things. And I think you might find some of the, especially the webinars, there's about 100 webinars that have been recorded, edited for continued showing. We get an awful lot of traffic at that site. Last year we had visitors from over 100 countries and downloaded somewhere over 1.6 million pages of information that was disseminated off of that site. So we do encourage you to, if you haven't visited the site, to dig into it a bit and then share it with others so that they can pick up on it and be able to utilize some of those resources. Just a quick overview is AgrAbility has been around for nearly 30 years, and there's going to be more discussions about that later, but some of you may not be aware that it was originally established in the 1990 Farm Bill with bipartisan support from a number of key legislators, mostly from rural states. But I just still remember the time when we were pushing that forward and how excited we had, how much excitement we had from legislators about meeting the special need, especially as it related to veterans. And so we've been working with disabled veterans since the very beginning. This program is really modeled after nonprofit initiatives that were taking place in Vermont, which was probably the oldest program in the country. Indiana through the Breaking New Ground Resource Center and through the Farm program in Iowa. And all of these served as a model for developing the Farm Bill language to provide technical assistance. It might be of interest to you that when we originally put the language together for the Farm Bill, that we were told that we could not address mental health issues, which it really has become a very key part of many programs run by USDA today through the regional farm stress networks. But the original AgrAbility language, as it was being developed, really kept us contained in the area of physical disabilities and providing technical assistance. But through that period of time, we've always addressed these problems in a holistic way. And I think this workshop today really reflects that holistic view that we have with respect to farmers and their needs, not just maybe adaptations to equipment, but also how do they become more successful as business people? How do they deal with the stresses and strains of farm life? And so I really applaud everyone that was involved with putting this program together, because it really shows that whole big picture of what's needed to make farm families successful today. And it's just, not one segment or one component. It involves everybody working together on this to make it happen. So I think the agenda is clear. You've got plenty of break times between days. You have opportunities here in an hour or so to have an open conversation with all of us that are involved, and maybe all those on the site. So I encourage you to take that opportunity to visit, because I think connections are really, really important in this business. So I'll turn it back to JoBeth and Tess for kind of an overview of AgrAbility programs and services. And I'll take any questions at any time.
Thanks, Bill. Does anybody have any questions for Bill right now? I don't see anything in the chat. All right, well, I am going to share my screen. And there we go. All right. So we're going to talk about AgrAbility 101, the introduction to who, what, when, why, and where of AgrAbility. I am Tess McKeel, as I said earlier, with the National AgrAbility Project partner from Goodwill, the Finger Lakes, and JoBeth Rath is my colleague who is also on the Zoom meeting today. And we have partnered with the National AgrAbility Project to do education and outreach. So this is one of our education and outreach sessions. And there we go. Okay, so AgrAbility is a program sponsored by USDA NIFA. It provides assistance to farmers, ranchers, and agricultural workers and their family members impacted by a disability, an injury, or a chronic illness or condition. And we'll talk a little bit more about what those can be. As Bill said, the program funding began with the 1991 Farm Bill, and there were only 8 states funded at that point. We have grown a little bit. Grant funding is currently provided for one National AgrAbility project on a 4-year cycle, which is housed right now at Purdue University, and 20 state or regional AgrAbility projects, and those are on a 3-year cycle. This map here gives you an indication of what states are currently covered. So any state that is yellow has a funded state or regional project. In any state that is white or that light gray, they have an affiliate project. So at one point they would have been funded. They currently are not funded through USDA, but they are continuing to run an AgrAbility project in their state at some level. And then the gray states, the darker gray states, either have never had a program, or if they were funded previously, they are no longer supporting an AgrAbility project in their state. So who is involved in an AgrAbility project? So grant funding is available through a land grant university cooperative extension service, but they must partner with at least one nonprofit disability organization. So for example, the National AgrAbility Project is through the Breaking New Ground Resource Center at Purdue University, and they have partnered with Goodwill of the Finger Lakes and the Osteoarthritis Action Alliance. So those are both nonprofit disability organizations. They've also collaborated with Colorado State University and Washington State University to do evaluation of the program. So the vision of AgrAbility is to enable a high quality lifestyle for farmers, ranchers, and other agricultural workers with disabilities. Through education and assistance, AgrAbility helps to eliminate or at least minimize obstacles that block success in production agriculture or agriculture-related occupations. There we go. So AgrAbility serves individuals in production agriculture who are limited by any type of physical, cognitive, or illness-related impairment. And so some of those are listed here. Amputations, arthritis, back impairment, you know, there's a whole list there. Spinal cord injury, stroke. It could be anything. This is just a very small portion of what barrier, injury, you know, impairment, whatever you want to call it, that a farmer or agricultural worker or their family member may have. AgrAbility can help with, you know, a myriad of different conditions. Just as disability is a wide continuum, so is the agriculture. So it does not really necessarily matter what type of agriculture you are in. So row crops, ranching, small animals like sheep and goats, it could be dairy, it could be agritourism, or aquaculture, hydroponics. There are, you know, any kind of agriculture you can think of. So AgrAbility services are consumer-centered and may include any of the following: on-site assessments to help identify what the barriers are, recommendations of appropriate assistive technologies, adaptive tools, or modified work practices or modifications. We can have access to informational materials to share. There's educational and training opportunities through conferences, workshops, and online programs. There is also referral to appropriate service providers, which could be VR, it could be a nonprofit service. And then there's also peer support opportunities where we can link farmers and agricultural workers with others who have similar conditions, and then they can network and talk about what works for them. Special responsibilities specifically for the National AgrAbility Project is to provide support to the state and regional AgrAbility projects, including training, resources, consultation with NAP specialists. We can also provide limited direct services to customers in states without AgrAbility projects. And that could be just, again, linkage to resources or other organizations that may be in their state that can help them out. So AgrAbility does not provide direct funding or equipment. However, they can work to help connect clients with appropriate vocational rehabilitation agency or other funding sources. And then those sources may be able to help them fund equipment or modifications. So what do you do if your state does not have an AgrAbility project? You can still get technical support from the National AgrAbility projects on a limited basis. There are resources available at the website, and that is www.agrability.org. You can encourage your state's land-grant universities to apply for an AgrAbility grant. But there's also the state VR agency can help with modifications and funding. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, if you happen to be a veteran. All the states have centers for independent living. The states also all have an Assistive Technology Act project, and they can help with assistive technologies. Every land-grant university has a cooperative extension, so you can check with the cooperative extension in your state. And then USDA also has FSA and NRCS that can also be resources for you. So some of the key NAP personnel, obviously there's Dr. Bill Field. We heard from him just a little while ago. He is the founder of the Breaking New Ground project. He is also the overall project, he does overall project oversight for the National AgrAbility Project and the liaison with USDA. Paul Jones is our project manager. He manages daily activities, does resource development. He also hosts, webinars and workshops and that type of educational opportunities. He is also at Purdue University. We have Steve Swain. He is an assistive technology specialist. He is also at Purdue University. He works on our Toolbox, which I will talk about just in a couple of minutes. And he is a liaison for RESNA. We have Chuck Baldwin, who is Special Populations Outreach Coordinator and Demographic Data Specialist, big long title, but he does networking with the 1890 and the 1994 land-grant institutions, any Latino farm worker organizations, and other organizations for special populations. And he is also the coordinator of the demographic data, so he collects the demographic data from all of the state and regional projects and compiles them together. We also have Cindy Chastain. She is our Veteran Outreach Coordinator. She outreaches to veterans with disabilities interested in agriculture and in any of the organizations that serve veterans, so she would be a liaison to that. And the Toolbox, which I had mentioned earlier, there is the Toolbox on agrability.org, and the Toolbox has a myriad of different assistive technologies or modifications, things that you can access to help either yourself or clients that you work with help manage their activities on the farm, make things just a little bit easier or more efficient, the whole working smarter, not harder type of thought process. And so that is all I have right now. That is a very quick presentation. I know that didn't take our whole hour, but does anybody, I'm gonna stop share if it will let me. There we go, okay. And see, does anybody have any questions? You can either go ahead and unmute yourself, or you can type it in the chat box. I don't see any in the chat box right now. All right, Bill, is there anything else you would like to share?
Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Okay, thank you. I thought just a couple of additional interesting points that people might not be aware of. We do maintain a fairly close overview of our demographic data, and some of that's just now coming out for this past year, and some of it's accumulative. But about 21% of our current clients across the country are veterans, and many of them with combat-related disabilities. who are farming, and that has put us in a very close relationship with the Farmer Veteran Coalition. I do currently serve on their board, and we just had our annual virtual conference, which was, in my mind, a great disappointment, having been at all the others where, like, we had, I can't remember, 500-600 people at the last one we had in Texas, and just all of the relationship building that took place between veterans from across the country, and again, a very large percentage of them with a variety of disabilities, discharged with disabilities, who are all engaged in various aspects of farming, from an individual has 30 or 40 beehives to a farmer that farms 5,000 acres in Illinois, or someone that raises cattle on a small farm, to people that run feedlots. All of them have a common bond of producing food, fiber for everybody. And just to see all of them to get together for 3 or 4 days is an incredible experience, especially when we have some outings where we take people out. And last time we had this incredible Texas barbecue out on a big cattle ranch. And everybody just spends a lot of time building relationships, which I think are incredibly healing for many of those that are engaged in those kind of activities. Another group that we've shown a lot of interest in, and goes way back many years, and that's been young people. And when I used to be, many years ago, an FFA advisor, and the idea of having an FFA member with a disability compete successfully for a state office or a national office was almost unheard of. And yet we're seeing an increased interest in diversity and engaging young people with disabilities in agriculture. And so we get a lot of inquiries from young people that are wanting to have ag-related jobs. And so our client base of young people seems to continue growing. One area we have very few clients historically have been women farmers. And I think we're really trying to encourage more programming that directs towards the needs of women engaged in agriculture, especially with respect to adaptations, making their workloads lighter. And I think there's just a lot of opportunities there. And there's lots of people engaged with AgrAbility right now that have experience in that area. And so if you really are interested in any of those, youth, veterans, working with women, or with Chuck Baldwin's work with the National Black Farmers Association, I'm just really pleased that last year we were AgrAbility was named as the National Partner of the Year of the National Black Farmers Association. And it's a really aggressive effort to try to engage with these special populations to make sure that we're addressing their needs and doing it in a way that just doesn't provide a lot of lip service, but really engages folks in both ways, because we have a lot to learn from each other. And I think that's been a fun experience for me, especially having had done workshops with migrant seasonal farm workers in Arizona, to working on 1894 institutions up in the upper west, Montana and so forth. It just, everybody has sort of this common interest in wanting to be successful in whatever occupation they've chosen to do. And we're just coming alongside and helping them and making some of the opportunities more possible because of the kind of resources that we're able to provide. So I'd be glad to answer any questions about the structure or who we serve and the opportunities that are there. Just feel free to, this is an opportunity to have some conversation.
Bill, there are a couple of questions in the chat box. And so the first one said, is there any affiliation with 4-H?
Oh yeah, we are part of Extension throughout all the projects. And as you know, 4-H is part of Extension. And so I'm an Extension educator specialist at Purdue, have been for 40 some years. And so some of our early projects, some of you may have never heard of it, but it's called Perfect Fit. We had funding from the Department of Education to develop 4-H materials to mainstream kids into traditional 4-H programs. That material went nationwide, sent to every youth educator in the country years ago, maybe a little bit before its time, but I was committed as a former teacher and a 4-H leader that every kid needs to have the opportunity to participate. And so we were always finding ways to accommodate back then. And it just wasn't adopted as widely as I would like to have seen. I can tell you we did some really significant battles with county fairs who were prohibiting children with disabilities from showing at the county fair and other things that during the early years. I'm just glad to see that not happening like it used to. And so the same thing we did with FFA. We produced some material called Bridging Horizons that was distributed to about 15,000 ag teachers across the country. And it was a collection of interviews with kids that have succeeded in agriculture and FFA with severe disabilities. And that material, all of it's archived on our website. We are exploring some opportunities to update some of it. But you know, I'm just delighted that there's somebody there that has an interest in that.
All right. And the next questions, these two kind of go together. So how are people made aware of the program, and how do high schools, trade schools, colleges, et cetera, get the information?
Why are you having me answer all these questions?
Well, I can answer it too, I guess.
No, we can both provide answers.
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the concerns that we've always had is that we're a very modest program. When you look at us compared to even the newly funded farm stress programs, the amount of money that's there, ours is pretty small. And so we've always tried to temper our marketing to some degree, because if you look at how many phone calls that we handle already and emails, and that's why we just focus so much on the development of the website, because it just allows for this incredible amount of traffic that occurs there. Just as I think if Paul Jones is on the line, he could correct me, but we get about 10,000 visitors a day on the AgrAbility website, and they cover all kinds of topics. And then we get a lot of email with specific questions. For example, I'm working on one here just before the call, a woman who lost her leg in a farm accident, wanting some contact, somebody she can talk to. And we've done that for a long time, and we have to be careful about what we can promise. But as far as getting the word out, we do a lot of marketing indirectly through first-person stories in farm publications. We've had excellent articles in Farm Journal, Successful Farming, Progressive Farmer, some of the major farm media shows across the country. We do that on a regular basis, and that generates an awful lot of feedback. We're currently upgrading 3 curriculum pieces for teaching assistive technology in vocational ag or ag education programs. And that's going to be mailed to every ag teacher in the United States. We're planning on burning about 17,000 flash drives. And you're going to ask the question, why in the world are you using flash drives in a world of computers, internet, and so forth? Well, I'm sitting out here in the middle of rural Indiana, and I can't show you my picture. I can't do both audio and visual on my computer because it crashes it, because we have a very slow internet speed at where my house is. And that's not going to change until they spend a lot of money putting fiber optics in, or we do some other alternative. So we do send this stuff out to them in a hard form because the teachers find it much more successful to use. And then also some of our material, because of its nature and the quality of it, is difficult to download easily into schools. It's often prevented or blocked. So we do a lot of distribution of materials to those teachers in a form that they can just slip in and use in their computer. And it's a little funny sidebar on that is at the National FFA Convention, not this past year because it was virtual, the year before, we still had a whole bunch of older ag teachers that wanted the materials in a CD format. And anyone over the age of 40 or so wanted the CDs. Anyone under that age wanted the flash drive. So we still try to accommodate just the learning styles and the equipment that's out there. But to answer your question, really straightforward is, I think we work pretty hard to get the word out. It's just, I know we're not going to be able to reach everybody. That's why we encourage you to share what you learned today with others.
Okay, let's see. How can state projects be involved with VOC Ag programs? Follow-up letter after NAP sends flash drives.
Great question. I think any of the state projects which we have encouraged for a long time is to reach out to their ag education programs. We have individuals in our state that go out and specifically do programming with high school kids, and it takes a special person to do that. They got to know how to work with kids. But we've had a Bridging Horizon program. It's not a really big project, but over the years, if you visit our website, you'll see about, I don't know, 50, 60 different projects that we've had local ag ed programs, FFA chapters do. They've ranged from accessible fishing docks to accessible walking trails to accessible picnic tables for parks. Just all kinds of projects that we've had local chapters do. And then we used to provide, and we still do up until this past year, we provided cash prizes that came from donors that went directly to the FFA chapter to fund these projects. And we never get a large number of them, but over the years, I've been impressed by the impact it's had on a lot of people.
Thanks, Bill. Anybody else have any other questions?
One of the questions I just received is, how do we know how many farmers out there have disabilities? And that seems to come up in the reviewer comments that when we submit a proposal. But just to give you a little history there is that Tormolden back in the 80s did a little study, and we found about 19% of the farmers that we surveyed had a disability that kept them or hindered them from completing essential daily tasks. And so it wasn't just, a discomfortable, uncomfortable activity or a minor thing. It was keeping them from doing something they wanted to do, about 19%. And then we did a very thorough study with a team that was funded, I can't remember who, by Department of Ed or somebody, by Du Bois, and we found between 15 and 20% of the adult farm population, farm operators, that included some women, were unable to do essential daily tasks. And then it was followed up by a study that the National AgrAbility Project funded at the University of Illinois, and they came up with that 19%. So it hasn't varied much in 30 some years. That somewhere between 15 and 20% of the adult farmers in your state, regardless of where you are, have some kind of disability. And you say, well, how could that be? Because the images I see in farm magazines look like they're all about 30 years old and driving a combine and looking healthy and handsome. The reality is the average age of farmers in this country is 58. And it's the range is of clients that we work with go all the way from small children who have special needs all the way to 90-year-old farmers who still are working and active and want to be assisted in developing some adaptions for them to continue working. So it's easy to see where about not quite 1/5 of the farmers out there could benefit from some of the simple assistive technology that has been developed over the years through AgrAbility.
Right. Any other questions? You can feel free to unmute yourself or just type into the chat box, either way. All right.
Tess, maybe we should ask them questions.
Sure. You want to ask a question, Bill? Absolutely.
how can we do this better? How do we scratch where it itches? How do we make this work for you? Or, some people yesterday at a meeting told us we should do this at night. And I'm opposed to that because some of our days are already pretty long.
Anyone have any ideas? I guess not.
Okay.
All right. Well,
I have a question.
Go right ahead. Yes.
I was trying to formulate it.
Sure, not a problem.
I'm Stuart Fisher from LPTC at Little Priest Tribal College in Winnebago, Nebraska, and 1994 Tribal College. And we're working on we work mostly with tribal members that are like, family gardeners, and then we do work with the tribal garden program and Ho-Chunk Incorporated Farms. We work together kind of all in the same work group. And one thing that we're working on separately, sort of, but as a community, is a questionnaire and a survey that's going to try to cross as many T's, but we're concerned mostly with the health and healthy eating and healthy living and that kind of thing. But I'm just wondering, sometimes tribal groups are a little reticent about sharing data, and some of the things that they also don't like to share are disabilities. They just don't like to be, they don't admit to them very often, and I'm a little bit shy about discussing stuff like that. So I'm just wondering if there's any kind of a survey that's out there that maybe we could adapt. I mean, maybe I'm kind of off the beaten subject, but I'm always trying to take information from the outside and form it into what works here. And right now, just to see what people's needs are is kind of optimum to us. And I would just like maybe a different approach or an idea that somebody might have that kind of we could use in conjunction with our current survey.
Okay. And Stuart, did you say you were in Nebraska?
Yes.
Okay. Because I can actually put you in touch with the Nebraska AgrAbility Project. So Emily and Rod out there are in Nebraska, and they may be able to help you formulate something or adapt something that they're using. And then even if you have a specific, tribal member that may need some help, then they can even help with that too.
Oh, great. That would be wonderful. This year's been a trial for sure.
Yeah.
But we've actually made huge strides in because prior to the pandemic, we had actually already have a food sovereignty committee. So that's been our big emphasis. And then we kind of segued into a pandemic task force. So our working group pretty much just changed names, and we worked together to continue it. So the survey kind of covers all the broad. There's only 700 and some odd people in the community itself, and probably just over maybe 1,500 total in the tribe. So it's something that we have to kind of massage and make fit. So that'd be great to have some more information or have them contact me.
Sure. And I will also send you Chuck Baldwin's contact information. He's our special populations outreach And he's also our data collection person. So he could probably be a good resource too.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stuart, it's an interesting question, and I just want to say you're not alone. I think farmers in general, we find, don't like asking for help. I'm sure Dr. Field can tell you stories of people that he's seen that don't need help. I know we joke when we go to a farm show to do outreach. You know, sometimes you have to stand in front of somebody that's missing a leg or an arm or limping or very arthritic to say, you know, they might need help, and they, oh, I'm good, I'm fine. So it's not unique to that population. So there'll be some resources, I think, from the teams that can help you for sure.
Well, I'm from a farm family, so I know.
You know the drill.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Bill, there was a question that was put in the chat box that says, last person noted current survey. Is that in the resource library? Interested in seeing it. So what you might be able to explain better, or Chuck, maybe the data that we do have on our website.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry. It's somehow going in and out. I'm not sure what's going on. We do an annual demographic report for USDA, and if we can put you in touch with Chuck, he can send you a copy. A copy that was sent to USDA recently for last year, and it also has you know, some accumulative data from several years. And then we just published a paper. The title escapes me, but the key author was Bob Fetch from Colorado State University. And he looked at about 15 years of demographic data for the AgrAbility project. And that was just published in the Journal of Ag Safety and Health, I believe. And we've published in a couple of other journals that information, but we can get those articles to you. We don't have them in their whole form on the website because of copyright issues. We'll typically have an abstract, but we can show you at least where to go to get those. And if you have difficulty getting them, you know, as an author, I can send those to you.
Okay, any other questions?
And my email is real simple, field, F-I-E-L-D, @ Purdue, P-U-R-D-U-E.edu.
All right. Well, it doesn't look like we have any more questions. People are absolutely welcome to stay on and just chat. We kind of just reserve the next hour up until 3 o'clock for networking. If we had been in person, we would have taken a little break and everybody would have been able to just, you know, chat with each other and have conversations. So feel free to stay on and ask more questions, or if you see someone, you know, that you are familiar with and want to chat with or share any information that you have, feel free to do that. Otherwise, the official presentation is finished, so you're also welcome to go and come back at 3 o'clock if you would like. We will be having a presentation on the human side of farming by Kate Downs from New York Farmnet. And so she's joined with us right now, but she will also be presenting at 3 o'clock. So thank you, everyone. So you feel free to unmute yourself, or I can unmute everybody and you can just chat. Let me.
Is Dave Baker from Missouri?
Dave, you want to unmute yourself? Bill was wondering if you're from Missouri. Oh my gosh, I can't talk today. Oh, no, I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe he's not listening.
He's at the buffet table getting chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, see, we would normally have a break table with chocolate chip cookies, is right. Kind of hard to network over a computer. It's much easier when you're standing in the room together.
The name a long time ago. He's probably shocked that I'm still alive.
Tess, can you try unmuting as the host?
I tried unmuting. It says I can ask all to unmute, but it won't.
I tried to put something in the chat, but it says privately to Tess McKeel.
Yep, that's me.
Oh,
I can,
so you
oh,
don't,
you know what? Yeah, you can
it
switch
won't let us,
that.
I didn't see where it would let me switch it.
So next to my name, there should be a little bit of an arrow.
Oh, I see.
If you click on that, you should be able to see everyone in meeting.
Oh, how about if we all typed in where we're from and where we work or something?
That would be wonderful. Thank you for the suggestion.
So basically $100 an hour. Okay, and then, what was the other way? Okay, so let's just go then with the $100 an hour. So now, again, let me make sure.
Tess,
Yes, Bill.
I think that our good friend from Florida needs to mute.
Yep, I muted.
I recognized her voice.
Yeah. The funny thing is that Keith Parker was the only one unmuted, and that's where we were hearing the voice from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I agree with your thought of the voice.
I'm going to put Kate on the spot a little bit. So it's interesting when we talk about partner programs. In New York State, we don't have an AgrAbility program. So we rely on partners. And I just thought Kate is here with Farmnet, which is sort of a unique and interesting program. Not every state has one like it. So Kate, would you mind just talking a little bit about what Farmnet is? I know you're going to present to us, but this will give you a little chance to talk about Farmnet globally.
Sure. So we are a program at Cornell University. We started in 1986 in response to the national farm crisis. And we provide a holistic approach to working with farmers, farm families, and agribusiness providers, so extension educators, nutritionists, whomever, by providing financial counseling and guidance, as well as personal well-being and stress management. So we have financial consultants and we have family consultants, and they all have familiarity with agriculture, so they really understand the culture of agriculture and the culture of farming. And, you know, that really brings a lot to the table when they come sit down with a farm family at their tables, and they, you know, they talk through things, they figure out what's going on. Well, we may be called with a financial question. There may be some deep family struggles that are holding up the profitability of a farm. So we help work from all different sides. And I'll talk a little bit about that during my presentation at 3. But I'm happy to answer any questions about our program. We do operate an 800 helpline that is open 24/7 and is always answered by a real live human, which is pretty cool. We, you know, I'm one of 4 staff in the office, so I'm sometimes on that call line, which is, it's a really nice way to stay in touch with what we do, talking with farmers in all sorts of states of wanting to grow the farm or transition the farm or just dealing with personal crisis. So it's a really interesting program, and it's pretty unique because we're one of the few exactly like ours in the entire country.
And so that's a great example here in New York. We are, although we're part of this National AgrAbility Project, we might get called on for help, and Farmnet is one of the places we might partner with to help somebody out, because usually injury, disability has some financial risk to the farm, some need to retool the business, and so consultants from Farmnet could go help retool or look at a business plan and say, this is maybe what you might want to do or what you could consider. Transition planning is huge for Farmnet, so that's not always a smooth transition. As pretty as it looks in movies, the transition of farm from mom and kids doesn't always go smoothly, so Farmnet steps in to help with that as well.
Yeah, and we, you know, we like to say that we help folks in times of crisis, growth, and opportunity. Because we got started during the 1980s farm crisis, many people still associate us with, you have to be in crisis to call Farmnet. Yes, we will work with you and we will help you to the best of our ability if you are in crisis, but we also really love to do some of that long-term proactive planning, looking at retiring from farming because it is possible, and or looking at estate planning or anything like that, and helping with the transition of the farm, because we know that is really, really hard for farmers to do. To essentially stop being a farmer is almost impossible. So we help ease that transition and help folks look at things from different perspectives. And we're a neutral third party. We have no skin in the game. All our work is free, totally confidential. Yeah, and it's just a really incredible program. We're supported through New York State, through the Department of Ag and Markets and the Office of Mental Health, which I think is really important, that the state realizes and recognizes how critical this program is to supporting farms in New York State. We have a team of 45 consultants all over New York, including Long Island, all the way up to St. Lawrence County, up on the northern Canadian border. We have folks almost out in Ohio, out in Erie County. So we have people everywhere in New York State, you know, both the financial and the family consultants. So when someone calls us, we send out teams of 2, both a financial and a family consultant, to work with that family, because you never know what you're walking into. Well, it might, because it's a little bit easier to ask for help with a financial question. Sometimes when we get there, we realize there's some other stuff going on. So we, you know, having that team approach really enhances our work and allows for pretty good outcomes for the families too. And we, you know, we work with folks like JoBeth at the Goodwill of the Finger Lakes. We work with New York Center for Ag Medicine and Health. You know, we work with lots of different programs in New York Farm Bureau, lots of different cooperative extensions throughout the state. There's some of our best referrers, you know, because we ask that farmers call us themselves. You know, so JoBeth might know a farmer, but she can't call on that farmer's behalf. That farmer has to call us and ask for help. It's them acknowledging that they need help and want help, and they're ready to take that next step, which can be a really, really big one for them. So it's a pretty cool program, and I feel really lucky that I get to do this work. Does anybody have any questions?
A little snapshot in New York of a partner example. And so we don't really have a state-run AgrAbility project, but we piece together some partners to try to provide services similar to what it's kind of a many hands, and states that do have part of their grant, and some are informal partners, which would be people that they call on to assist with specific things. At Goodwill the Finger Lake with that. But if it was somebody with a different disability, we might call different organizations. So it's just an example of how partnerships work, and they're different in every state. At Goodwill, we have a phrase that says, if you've seen one Goodwill, you've seen one Goodwill, because there are 162 of us in that membership organization, but all separate nonprofits. And it's kind of the same for AgrAbility projects. While the content, you have to have a disability partner, and you have to be land grant university, how people piece that together is very different depending on the state. So keep that in mind if you're looking for help in your state, or you're looking to support your state. There's many ways that it can be done.